Austin was a junior at Memorial High School, where he excelled academically with an impressive 4.2 GPA and played football. According to his father, he had a bright future, with several prominent schools showing interest in recruiting him, particularly during events like the one for the Arkansas Razorbacks, who compete in the Senate. As a multi-sport athlete, Austin was also a member of his high school's track team, competing on April 2nd in a stadium located in his hometown of Frisco, about 40 minutes from Dallas. These events often feature long stretches of downtime, and if you've participated in track, you know that each team typically has a designated area to relax and prepare. On that Wednesday, Austin sheltered under a tent with his teammates when it started to rain. The suspect, who attends a different high school, was also under the tent and asked to relocate. My brother confronted the suspect, who taunted, "Make me move." Amidst the chaos, Austin grabbed his backpack while I surveyed the area. However, I didn't witness the actual stabbing. According to the arrest warrant obtained by KXAS-TV, Anthony reportedly told police, "I'm not alleged. I did it." He claims he acted in self-defense when allegedly killing Metcalf. However, we'll discuss shortly why this self-defense claim may not hold up in court. Carmelo Anthony, a senior at Frisco High School in Texas, was also a football player and was recently featured in a tournament where he was mic'd up, a video he shared on his X account. As of August the 2nd, Anthony seemed to have a promising future ahead of him, bolstered by social media evidence suggesting he had received offers to play college football. Reports indicated interest from Division III schools in Texas and Louisiana, as well as a small college in Kansas. His profile on Huddle, a platform for football recruits, prominently featured the quote, "God has shown you the right path." However, this optimism stands in stark contrast to his current situation. He is now confronted with the possibility of never stepping onto a football field again, or ever enjoying the freedom of being a free person, due to murder charges against him. A user on X lamented, "You ruined your whole future, dude," a sentiment that weighs heavily if the allegations prove to be true. If convicted, the future of Austin Metcalf is critically at stake. The tragic events of the track meet on Wednesday have not only ended his future, but also profoundly affected his family and their healing process. This week, Austin's father launched a GoFundMe page to support the family, which has already raised nearly $200,000 at the time of this recording. The page features nostalgic photos of Austin, his dad, and his twin brother from their childhood. In a heartfelt message, his dad reflects, "He was a natural leader among his peers. His smile would light up the room, and his profound passion for football was unparalleled." It's difficult not to become emotional when viewing the picture of this father with his sons. While just fishing and gazing at the peaceful pond, it's hard not to reflect on everything that has been lost due to a recent, controversial decision. The emotions are overwhelming, especially when reading on that GoFundMe page where Dad shares his heartfelt message. Austin's final post on social media was on March 31st, where he expressed his unwavering faith, stating, "I have faith that God got me, and my work will pay off." Joining us now to discuss this case, which has certainly sparked considerable conversation, is trial attorney Bridget Williams, who is with us from Dallas, Texas. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I appreciate the chance to share my thoughts, especially since this has been headline news in your city since earlier this week. At this point, there are several concerns based on the information we have so far. One of the primary questions on my mind is what led to such a significant dispute in the first place. It's crucial to understand what might have triggered this situation, particularly considering how quickly it escalated. Additionally, I believe there needs to be a clearer understanding of what constitutes self-defense. This situation raises important questions about the real implications of self-defense, especially when one individual believes they are acting in their own defense. Bridget, you raise an important point, as these discussions can be quite delicate. It's crucial to acknowledge that in situations like this, multiple lives are affected. The McCaffrey family is enduring unimaginable pain, having lost their son forever. On the other hand, we must also consider the actions of the suspect. Questions arise about the decision to bring a knife to a track meet. How do we reconcile these perspectives? It can be challenging to navigate this complexity. For instance, reflecting on the fact that Carmelo Anthony had college football offers makes it even more troubling. This incident, which occurred on April 2nd, during what should have been a routine event, may have stemmed from an altercation over something that ultimately holds little significance. The consequences are severe. The suspect risks spending many years behind bars, while their family is also left to cope with the fallout of this tragic decision. He had received college offers to play football, but on that fateful day, April the 2nd, during a track meet, a decision was made over something that, in the grand scheme of things, likely didn't matter at all. The consequences of that decision could lead him to spend the rest of his life behind bars, profoundly impacting his family, who once envisioned a future with a college football player in their home. Instead, they may now find themselves visiting him in prison for the majority of their lives. This situation, which started as a minor disagreement among high school students, quickly escalated into something serious, snowballing into a crisis that no one anticipated. The ramifications of such an incident raise important questions about self-defense and the actions taken in the heat of the moment. The crux of the issue lies in the nature of the disagreement. What determines what is considered self-defense in these incidents? When does an oral disagreement escalate into a physical confrontation? Moreover, how can this escalation justify the use of a weapon, like a knife? Under Texas law, any response must generally be proportional to the level of threat posed. That is, the force used in self-defense should be equal to, or less than, the force initiated by the aggressor. In this scenario, the suspect asserts that he warned the other individual not to touch him, yet that person proceeded to do so, prompting him to draw a knife. While it's possible there were issues leading to the physical altercations, this does not justify responding with a knife. The response must be reasonable and proportionate to the situation. When the case reaches the trial phase, determining the legality of actions taken can be complex. Each party will present their narrative, and if the defendant claims self-defense, it will rely heavily on witness testimonies to construct the sequence of events. The challenge lies in reconciling these personal accounts with the legal standards to ascertain what occurred, as well as understanding how they align with the law. Determining the appropriate punishment begins well before the trial phase. This process is rooted in the discovery stage, where we meticulously examine various pieces of evidence. By reviewing the affidavits from witnesses and the statements made by the suspect, many of which were volunteered without prompting, we gather crucial information. This pretrial data is instrumental for the state as they assess the situation and consider the totality of the circumstances. All of these components are combined to establish a recommended range for punishment. The process begins long before the trial itself. It's crucial to acknowledge that many issues will influence the state's offer, which is based on the totality of the circumstances surrounding the case. In many self-defense claims, it is crucial to understand when such a defense is legally justified. Individuals may believe they are acting in self-defense, feeling threatened and potentially armed, such as with a knife in this case or a firearm in other scenarios. In those critical moments, they may assert, "I was defending myself." However, law enforcement may challenge that assertion, indicating that the situation does not genuinely meet the legal definition of self-defense. In the situations you have encountered throughout your career, have you observed a significant lack of understanding among suspects or defendants regarding the concept of self-defense? This tends to occur more frequently than one might anticipate. It's crucial to educate ourselves about the laws regarding self-defense, especially if you're considering obtaining a firearm. Many people may not realize that simply brandishing a weapon, for example, if someone cuts you off on the interstate, is not permissible. This can lead to serious legal consequences. You need to understand that you can't be charged for defending yourself, but it's important to ensure that you are following the law to avoid potential issues down the line. Taking the time to learn about self-defense laws is essential not just for your protection, but also to be compliant with legal standards. One case that highlights these complexities is that of Daniel Penny in New York, who claimed self-defense during an incident on a subway involving an individual experiencing a mental health crisis. When discussing cases involving self-defense, particularly those that tragically result in the loss of life, it's important to consider the complexities of self-defense laws. For instance, stand your ground laws in Florida often spark intense debate whenever a related case arises. What's puzzling is the noticeable inconsistency in how different states define and interpret self-defense. Each state has its own unique standards, making it challenging to grasp what constitutes justifiable self-defense across the board. In Florida, the criteria for self-defense are distinctly outlined, while Texas operates under a different framework. Here in Texas, the definition of self-defense hinges on whether the response was reasonable and appropriate to the situation. This difference in legal standards underscores the need for individuals to familiarize themselves with the self-defense laws specific to their state. It's crucial to understand that you can't be charged for defending yourself, but it's important to ensure that you are following the law to avoid potential issues down the line. Taking the time to learn about self-defense laws is essential, not just for your protection, but also to be compliant with legal standards. In a related incident, the suspect, Carmelo Anthony, is currently being held on a $1 million bond and faces murder charges. It's common to encounter challenging discussions with individuals who have been charged with crimes. Many individuals never imagined they would find themselves facing criminal charges, particularly those who are not habitual offenders. The conversations surrounding these cases can be quite challenging, often involving not only the defendants themselves, but also their families. This situation profoundly affects not just the individuals charged, but also their loved ones, impacting their lives for an extended period. Such discussions can be extremely tough, and the realities of the legal system weigh heavily on everyone involved. For instance, when a suspect like the one we're discussing is being held on a $1 million bond, it's not unusual. Setting a bond like this is a decision made due to the nature of the offense, which in this case is murder. The authorities must assess whether the suspect poses a danger to themselves or others, especially in light of circumstances involving violent confrontations. In situations like this, a bond is established due to the seriousness of the offense, which in this case is murder. The question arises, is this individual a danger to himself or others? Presenting a knife during a physical altercation certainly indicates that he poses a risk to others and could equally endanger himself. Given these circumstances, I don't anticipate that a judge would significantly lower the bond amount. It's likely that his attorney will request a bond hearing to seek a reduction, particularly if the family is unable to afford the current bond. These steps are typical for a defense attorney aiming to negotiate more favorable terms for their client. Considering the nature of the offense and the potential danger to the community, I don't anticipate a significant reduction in the bond amount. Typically, in cases of this severity, bond amounts tend to remain high. In some jurisdictions, defendants might have the option to work with a bail bondsman, which usually requires a payment of around 10% of the total bond amount, along with certain state fees. It's important to assess what portion of that 10% his family would need to come up with if he were released on bond prior to the trial. In Texas, individuals have two primary options for securing a bond. They can arrange for either a bail bond or a surety bond. A bail bondsman could post the bond for them, requiring just a 10% payment along with applicable state fees, which is standard practice. Some bail bondsmen may charge slightly higher rates, but this option generally exists. Alternatively, they could opt for a cash bond, which involves paying the entire bond amount up front directly to the court. The advantage of a cash bond is that once the case is resolved, the family would receive the full amount back. However, it's crucial to note that if a bail bondsman is involved, the fee paid is non-refundable. That money goes directly to the bail bondsman and is not recoverable. The bail bondsman assumes full responsibility for the bond as long as the defendant appears in court. If a defendant fails to return to court, the bail bondsman becomes wholly accountable for the bond amount owed to the court. An alternative is the cash bond, where the family can pay the entire amount directly to the court, allowing them to reclaim the full amount at the conclusion of the case. In this situation, the suspect, Carmelo Anthony, is 17 years old and considered a minor, despite being charged as an adult. It raises the question of why individuals close to turning 18 are often prosecuted as adults, even when still classified as juveniles. In some instances, juvenile courts may petition for cases to be heard in district courts, particularly if the offense is severe. This case's gravity suggests it should progress in the district court, and it is essential for it to move forward. For a case to be tried in a district court or county court at law, the severity of the offense plays a crucial role. This type of case, given its seriousness, should ideally progress in the district court. I'm unsure why there hasn't been movement on this matter yet. If the incident occurred on April 2nd, which was a Wednesday this week, what does the timeline look like for the subsequent legal proceedings leading up to a potential trial? It's essential to note that cases like this typically have no statute of limitations, allowing the police department ample time to build a strong case. The next steps will involve the district attorney's office at the felony level, which will evaluate whether the evidence is substantial enough to advance the case. Once the police have completed their investigation, they will evaluate whether the evidence gathered is substantial enough to proceed. Following this assessment, the district attorney's office will take the case to a grand jury. The grand jury's role is to determine if there is sufficient probable cause to move forward with the prosecution. This sequence of events can be time-consuming. The entire process may stretch into months or even years before a trial date is set. Consequently, before reaching an actual court date,